Hello and welcome to Meta-Evidence Articles, where we encourage community research and education with weekly articles. I'm your host, Benton Loeyball, and this week we are talking about Attention-Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Navigating ADHD. Sailing is expensive, slow, frustrating, and one of my favorite activities. Nothing beats a lovely, calm sea with a breeze at your back. On the other hand, sometimes the wind is blowing in the exact direction you're trying to go. And when that happens, instead of a pleasant cruise, you have to zigzag across the wind repeatedly, fighting wind and waves. The varying ease of sailing with different wind directions is much like the differences we experience in how we can perform certain tasks. The most prevalent pediatric disorder, ADHD, or Attention-Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is a lot like trying to sail into the wind. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder where inattention, hyperactivity, and/or impulsivity develop atypically. ADHD affects tens of millions of Americans. Genetics play a key role in the development of ADHD and are the highest risk factor. The disorder is polygenic, which means small genetic factors add together to make a significant change in function. Think of it like a boat sinking. Running into a rock will do it, but really the problem is poor navigation, planning, steerage, lookouts, and leak mitigation. Diagnosing ADHD can only be done by a professional who looks for key indicators like persistent hyperactive and/or impulsive behavior over 6 months that occurs in multiple settings, typically at both school and home. Diagnosis can be difficult, as the symptoms of ADHD are nonspecific. Boys are diagnosed at about twice the rate of girls, but studies show this may be due to a difference in how the disorder presents in different sexes. Boys are more likely to be diagnosed based on behavioral issues, whereas adults are more likely to recognize issues in girls based on cognitive or language difficulties. Behavioral challenges are more likely to cause a disturbance in a classroom or at home, so there's a higher rate of recognizing a need for a diagnosis. Interestingly, as people age, the difference between the sexes decreases, and in adult population surveys, there is near equivalency in ADHD diagnosis between men and women. Researchers have also found environmental risk factors that increase the risks of children developing ADHD. These include an unsafe school and neighborhood, economic hardship, exposure to toxins such as lead and pesticides, and excessive screen time. Studies on screen time have found that TV, video games, tablet phone use, and social media activate the same areas of the brain affected by ADHD. Research shows that heavy screen time can temporarily worsen ADHD symptoms such as impulsivity, inattentiveness, and working memory, and that frequent social media use can lead to persistent increases in impulsivity lasting more than a year. These effects move in both directions, though, as people with higher risks of ADHD tend to have more and longer-lasting preferences for screens, which then exacerbate symptoms in a perpetual cycle. Let's sail into the eye of the storm and find out what's going on inside the brain with ADHD. At its core, ADHD seems to be a problem with two key neurotransmitters, dopamine and noradrenaline. These are specific chemical signals in the brain that let neurons communicate and transmit information. So when their levels are low, like in ADHD, problems can arise. At a higher level, ADHD manifests as extra connectivity between three important networks. The default mode network is associated with self-focused attention and is usually active when engaged in self-reflection or mind wandering. The dorsal attention network is a top-down system that directs the mind's attention to specific goals or ideas. The ventral attention network is a bottom-up system that automatically shifts the brain's attention to unexpected or new stimuli. Squirrel. In ADHD, these networks are more closely linked in activity than in other brains, so attention switches rapidly between internal, external, and top-down demands. This rapid switching may manifest as inattention and/or impulsivity. Inattention may lead to obsessive thinking, which exacerbates anxiety, perfectionism, and inferiority complexes. Impulsivity may lead to disobedience and defiance, which can have a negative effect on relationships, loneliness, and depression. Treatments for ADHD vary based on age and severity. For young children of preschool age, behavior therapy is the first line of treatment and usually aims to train the adults, parents or teachers, on how to manage a child with ADHD effectively. Medications are usually only recommended if there's a significant impairment behavior therapy does not reduce. Older children may start medication at an earlier stage. Frontline medications are stimulants and have been used for over 60 years. Methylphenidate or Ritalin is a dopamine and noradrenaline reuptake inhibitor that increases the availability of those neurotransmitters and counteracts the effects of ADHD. Amphetamines like dextroamphetamine, lisdexamphetamine, and mixed amphetamines are also reuptake inhibitors, but accelerate the release of neurotransmitters and reduce the body's ability to break them down, making for a more potent effect at the cost of stronger side effects. Methylphenidate is recommended for children and adolescents, while amphetamines may be prescribed to adults. These medications bring low levels of dopamine and noradrenaline to a more typical baseline for ADHD patients. For people who have normal levels of these neurotransmitters, however, these medications act as a heavy stimulant and can be addictive. Non-stimulants include guanfacine, which regulates dopamine and noradrenaline release, and atomexetine, which selectively acts on noradrenaline. Beyond the pharmacy, a long-term solution for many patients is patience. Around 1/3 of ADHD cases resolve themselves by adulthood, and for those that don't, the symptom profile may lessen. Researchers find that impulsivity and hyperactivity have moderated for those with long-term ADHD, though inattention continues. Other treatments include behavioral therapy directed at the person living with ADHD, and a wide range of variety and supplement-based approaches, which have widely varying outcomes. Evidence in this space is lacking and could benefit from a significant investment in randomized, controlled clinical trials to determine the effect of things like saffron and neurofeedback. With the help of clinical trials, we hope to eventually say anchors away to low side effect treatments for ADHD. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of MedEvidence Articles. If you'd like to know more, all of our descriptions are linked in the podcast description below. You can also visit our website at medevidence.com. MedEvidence helps answer the question of who can you trust for medical information. The MedEvidence platform provides valuable information about many medical issues and the insights of evidence-based medicine. MedEvidence educates audiences through engaging and entertaining magazines, podcasts, videos, articles, and presentations. We strive to bring together diverse voices of top-level medical professionals, researchers, and experts to provide unique and engaging content that uncovers the truth behind the data. For more great content, including discussions by physicians and subject matter experts, check out the MedEvidence podcast. My name is Benton, and we'll see you next week.